Emet-Selch is consistently the uncontested favorite character of Final Fantasy XIV. Even within the Final Fantasy franchise as a whole, he's pulled anywhere from 6th to 1st place overall. When the players are meant to like Venat and the goal is the happiest and most uplifting ending possible, where everything is wrapped in a tidy bow and people's beloved characters don't detest one another, they can't feasibly be pit against each other. You'll notice even Hermes and Medion are given sympathy and presented positively along with everyone else in the post-credits artwork, despite being the cause of the final days and responsible for the deaths of trillions. This scene was the culmination of everything associated with Venat and the insecurity of the writing surrounding her feeling disingenuous. It was the cherry on top of the relentless push for the audience to like her, to view her as benevolent, and to believe everyone had good intentions, wanted to save the world, and had all rallied behind you. Everyone was a victim of being used as a mouthpiece to boost Venat, but with Emmett it felt more egregious because prior to Endwalker he was such a well-written character, and here his dialogue comes across as a forced happy resolution. The only rationale for Venat allowing him to escape the Sundering, as stated in the lore Q&A, was to resolve the time loop. Emmett speaking of how she manipulated him into playing his part, as if the whole thing was some light-hearted joke, gave no weight to events, just sentimentality. It was unbelievable, given how deeply Venat had wronged him in particular. Throughout Shadowbringers, the impression we're given is that Emmett considered the Sundering to be essentially a war crime, and he pulls no punches in his condemnation of her. One of the reasons his story is compelling is due to the millennia of hatred and heartbreak he's suffered, which becomes grotesque when you realize it was purposeful. Many have overhyped Emmett's supposed agreement with Venat in this scene when he says, "Our methods would not have brought mankind this far." Extrapolating our methods to mean the ancients as a whole, when Venat herself is an ancient, is spurious. It more sensibly refers to the Ascians and the Rejoinings. Admitting a plan is effective at accomplishing its objective isn't the same as endorsement. It also isn't equivalent to stating no other plan would have been viable. The line is, at best, ambiguous and open to interpretation. It's certainly not the affirmation it's been made out to be by the community, and the frequent reliance upon it shows how weak Venat's presentive motives were, that people so desperately cling to the belief there was no other successful outcome for the ancients. Said belief also ignores the entirety of the scene following that statement. Emmett explicitly rejects Hydaelyn, and not only expresses no regrets, but doubles down on his values being unshakable. He would still prioritize the survival of the ancients over a resolution at the expense of his people. Emmett's also not omniscient.
Wait! A form of energy other than ether? Dynamis? I've never heard of such a thing.
His memories of Elpis were erased by Kairos, so he didn't remember Dynamis or the role it played, which was one of many plot contrivances in Endwalker. Emmett's initial reaction to Kairos was saying, quite impressive and potentially dangerous. Depending on the intensity of the etheric emissions, Pastorat may wish to have words with you. Noting Pastorat as the convocation seat of discipline and order. Emmett dismissing the gaping hole in his memories, saying, "I doubt aught of interest occurred," as a sitting member of the governing body and someone dedicated to duty required substantial suspension of disbelief. Hermes as Fandaniel never identified the cause of the final days as being Dynamis related, and Ammon as Fandaniel had no interest in volunteering that information. There's no indication the convocation were even aware the source of it was in outer space, and Amarat, the sound, is described as a keening from beneath the earth, as if the star itself has fallen ill. When the world was sundered, the priority of the unsundered was to restore their people, not solve for a cosmic problem they didn't know existed. The final days had been forestalled by Zodiarch and had shown no signs of returning for over 12,000 years. It seems to bear repeating that Venat never told anyone the truth. The expectation that the Ascians, operating in full ignorance and with a saboteur in their midst, should have somehow figured everything out on their own is ludicrous. Xenos also punches a hole, quite literally, into the logic that there was no other way to traverse Ultima Thule and confront Endsinger. Having feasted on ether to become Shinryu, an ether-based primal, to travel to Ultima Thule via said ether, fly directly to Medion's nest, and smash through her ultimatum. His existence alone nullifies any argument there weren't alternatives the ancients could have pursued given the chance. Matter of fact, it could be argued Absolute Horizon was a failed state for Venat, as the Warrior of Light is only able to progress by virtue of ancients and their creation magics in a place where ether is supposed to avail them not. Perhaps in a misguided attempt to convey a feeling of unity, the plot tries its absolute hardest to make you forget about the inevitable conflict between the Ascians and Hydaelyn. It tries to paint the picture that they were broadly wrong and she was broadly right, but you're never going to see this conflict from the past in full. That would be impossible, because then you would have to confront the numerous layers of gray in the whole situation, and that was simply unthinkable for the sterile portrayals of morality here. In the end, it becomes a simple, dumbed-down tale of general hope versus general despair, and anything deeper than that doesn't matter.